So we're sitting in your house, you're drinking an ice-cold Sprite, and then bang! The radiator sounds as if exploding. Bang! Bang! My soda immediately goes down the wrong throat, then comes out of my nose, right on top of me. Oh, God's sakes. Knock it off. You're knocking my... Wait. Hey, it was the upstairs neighbor's body. Well, the body that the upstairs neighbor, she lives here. And now I'll tell you the story of how I punished the hell out of my neighbors. I'll tell you in advance. It didn't turn out well, but it was fun. Alright, here we go. I was coming of age, an adolescent, and I decided to live alone to see what it was like and if I could support myself independently. And at first I thought that the hardest part would be getting food. I mean, I wasn't in the forest, and not getting procrastinated. But surprisingly, I hardly suffered from either of these things. Found a part-time job, and on weekends I cleaned the house. Suddenly, I had guests coming over. It was like the underground, stinky, and I felt like a stoner prancing back and forth. You know, it's fine. I live happily and peacefully. One day, I decided to have a little party. Called some friends, bought some groceries and some alcohol, and here we go. The plan was not to make too much noise. But we went a little overboard. Why? I mean, we're young. It's obvious that somewhere in the music will be loud, and somewhere howling a cappella with the band Death Killer. In general, fun and cool, but as soon as I poured a glass for everyone at the door, it was bursting loud banging. I think it was the neighbors. There was a man and his wife standing outside the door with absolutely peaceful faces. But there were the neighbors from the apartment opposite, claiming that we were making a lot of noise, like some kind of male bravado. Well, I accepted their request, and in my mind, I didn't understand what happened. An hour later, there was another knock on the door, but it was as if the riot police had been sent in. This time, the old corn who lived across the floor came in. I couldn't hear a thing in my heart. Apparently, modern hearing aids allow not only the hearing of tiny microscopic movements, but also teenagers that live right below you. She also didn't show any aggression and just asked me to be quiet, to which I agreed and had turned down the volume again. So we're left with a family audible song and a disgruntled crowd of friends demanding meat, and one couldn't take it anymore and turned up the volume on the speakers a lot. For about a minute, I couldn't do anything about it, and when I was about to take control of the situation, my door shattered with sounds of fists. When I opened it, I saw a bunch of people in front of me, a woman with a man and a grandmother who was drooling at me with anger. All in one voice started shouting me in the whole staircase, which made my heart clench like a frightened dignity in the Baltic Sea. I managed to calm them down and gave them a promise that the party would stop. The people on both sides were unhappy, but I didn't care anymore. I just wanted it all to stop. The next day, I got ready for my part-time job, and there was a surprise waiting for me under the door. All day I thought about what to do now. They hate me because of one loud party? Seriously? They'd also sue me to try to evict me maybe. After a day's work, there was a neighbor standing outside my door, looking at me with a very important look of surprise. Damn, who could have done this? Those scoundrels aren't ashamed of themselves. Yeah, I answered and went home. I thought they'd calm down, but that was just the beginning of the misery. At every opportunity, I got a kick out of them. For a well-mannered and discreet guy, perhaps that was why they were counting on, but I was not a patient man. On Sundays and every Sunday, the water in my flat would stop flowing. A couple of times I bored down and then called the plumber, who said that my basement tap had been shut off. One night, I felt like playing CSGO. Gathered a dream team, and during the first headshot, everybody just leaves the game. I tried to figure out what happened and see there's no internet. God damn it. I had to call the people from the provider. And first they walked around with me and didn't understand what was going on. They had already checked everything, and the last option was to climb up on the roof where they found the cut wire. You bastards, miserable, jealous sons of... I'll have you screaming, begging me to leave your miserable little souls alone. And so I turned on the fantasy, and after a couple of days I began to put my plans into action. There could be no thoughts of going to the police station, only my employment. Alas, I had to spend a small sum, but it was worth it. First on my Schindler's List was a neighbor and his wife. I don't know how mentally healthy they are, but the mania is definitely in there. For starters, I bought a GoPro and set it up simultaneously at the couple's house and the stooped apricot in front of the door, and then watched via my smartphone on how these orcs bail out of the house. Well, it turns out that their regime is quite sparse. Husband and wife leave in the morning and return in the evening. Granny's even simpler. She goes out once a day. Sometimes she goes out twice, but that's just to take a dump under my man, sit in the stairwell, smoke a cigarette or something. So I know all their comings and goings. How do I take advantage of that? You'll see. One day my neighbor came out of the house as usual, got in his car, started the engine, and was about to drive, as then a friend abruptly stopped due to a crunch from under his car. Inspecting the car, he sees a red mass dripping in the front of the wheel. Horror grips him. He examines the bloody wheel more closely and sees the wool. Through some sheer force, he forces himself to reach in the unknown piece and realizes it's a fake cat. Not bad, hey? It gets worse. Asked to visit his son to play catcalls, the boy was taken aback by the attention of his older neighbor and happily played the game with me. Well, then I told him to kind of go to the bathroom. Drove into my folks' bedroom and planted some woman's panties. At night, I had a deafening show waiting for me, performed by the wife. I even grabbed some chips in bed and listened to this fanatic screams. Afterwards, I began to wait. That same night, I carried out an addiction. At a flea market, I bought a bunch of all sorts of keys. While they were asleep, I inserted the right one into their keyhole, broke it with a sharp movement, and then ran off in my room. In the morning, they had to call a handyman, and I'm sure that they got a beating at their work for being late. And there's the finale. I made a special treat for the old apricot. I also asked her to come over with a cake and makeup. She didn't care, but she didn't show it, and she smiled like her cheek was about to crack. As she stepped back to put a kettle on, I discreetly slipped a detonating firecracker under the sofa where she was watching TV. There wasn't much time, and I was very nervous about burning her. Heaven bless her for being so slow. Towards the end, I even got bored, so I swapped her regular cigarettes for those with gunpowder. I had an idea to do something about her smelly cat, but I didn't think it was the animal's fault that her mistress was so moldy. And so, lying in my bed before I go to sleep, holding the remote control, I pressed the button like a trigger and a maniac smile. There's a light explosion from above and a body falls. I started laughing. Of course, I wasn't expecting the fall, but the main thing is that I wasn't expecting that 10 minutes later the jock would wake up and there would be another explosion. Especially she got nervous and decided to have a smoke, and I started laughing even more. Eventually, I became embarrassed and decided to, not apologize to them, but to move back in with my parents. It's okay with the apricot. She's still alive. She came to her senses and continued to poop under my mat. By the way, before I left, I found out that it was the mother of the neighbor I had planted woman's underwear on, and my desire to move out intensified. But on the day I left, I could not resist but put rubber bands fixed with a mixture of boiling water and starch in both neighbors' mailboxes. You can see what kind of imitation it turned out to be. There you go. Try not to throw manure to your neighbors. Take revenge if you need to, but don't go overboard. And take care of yourself and your loved ones. If you like this story, please leave a like. Write a comment down below and don't forget to subscribe.